Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my new or updated patrons, DCAing, Ryan S., Manuel, and Martin N. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. The video footage of Tesla's first autonomous delivery did come out very late Friday night. I'm guessing most of you have seen it by now. There was a shorter 3-minute video and a full 30-minute video was also released. I'll have the links to both below in case you did indeed miss them, but some of the other news that came out over the weekend, Jose, who was the customer that took the first delivery, did say the software was actually different for the delivery. Once the vehicle arrived, the engineers that were there actually changed the software on the vehicle. So for the delivery, it had the Robotaxi software and then was downgraded effectively to the regular FSD. Other than that, it did look like a regular Model Y. It did not have the special GPS communication equipment on the rear windshield like the Robotaxis do. And as Ben pointed out, who works at Tesla, if you did see that mount on the front of the roof, that was actually a GoPro mount. As we touched on Friday, it's pretty clear Tesla's autonomous software is ready for wider deployment than just the current geofence in Austin, which means it's mostly the operations side of the service that Tesla really wants to polish and refine before expanding. And I would encourage you to watch the 30-minute video if you have the time. For me, I ended up thinking back on Tesla's history and how far they've come, and I found myself imagining our future where your car drops you off at the airport and then drives itself home, where you don't have to tip for food delivery because no one's in the vehicle, where you can rent a Robotaxi for the day to run errands and keep your bags in the car until you're done shopping, or where you send your car off to service while you're at work and it ends up back in your driveway good to go. So yeah, for me it was kind of surreal sitting down and watching that video thinking through all of that, but hopefully we get a question about Tesla's plans to scale this service on the Q2 call. On that point, Ashok did share one of the videos saying the new normal. So of course, Tesla has plans to eventually make this service the new normal. The question is, how long is it going to take to get there? Yashu said, can you imagine watching this and not thinking Tesla is about to eat the world? We're living in the future and it's not peak AI yet. Replying to that, Elon said, true. Dave Lee had a 2-hour video with James Douma riding around in Tesla's Robotaxi, so here are just a few of the highlights of commentary from James. But first, have a look at this indecision for a right turn.
So Uchi it's like a house that's been converted into a restaurant. Oh, really interesting.
Wait, it just backed up?
Yeah.
Whoa. Very interesting. Okay, it's having a little bit hard time, but no, it's getting there. Yeah.
That was kind of an interesting indecision.
That was the most indecision I've probably seen. I've done like 30 plus rides.
That calculation, the Waymos, they use roughly as much power for their compute and sensors as they use for driving the vehicle. I think they're comfortably burning an order of magnitude more power. Like they're burning enough power that it meaningfully, impacts the range that they can get. I think the problem that Waymo faces is how do 1,000 Waymos compete with 10,000 Robotaxis? Actually, so Austin probably needs to satisfy rideshare in like the urban parts of Austin. You probably need like 2,500 taxis to saturate rideshare or something. If it was a wholly owned fleet, right? So imagine that Tesla fields 2,500 vehicles enough to satisfy that, or 5,000. Like they could easily do 5,000 taxis from a supply standpoint. There's no challenge for them. And then Waymo's got 1,000, right? They're not just getting undercut. That's not the biggest problem. The problem is that the service quality is going to be radically different because you're going to be looking at 8-minute waits for Waymos and 30-second waits for Teslas. Now that said, there is going to be enough demand that it's going to be hard to saturate the market for a while by just throwing too many vehicles at it, because the demand. If you start driving the price down to $1 a mile, 70 cents a mile, 50 cents a mile, then the TAM is going to expand from the TAM right now in the United States is 1 million vehicles worth of miles. the TAM will go to 25 million as you crank this down. You know, Uber put a lot of effort into building a fine business, and I don't want to dance on their grave. But like, if you ask me, like, how are they going to respond? I'm at a loss to come up with, you know, a strategy that's going to work. You know, if you have a competitor that produces a better product at 10% of your cost, you're just kind of doomed, right? It's very difficult to respond to that. I feel like that actually doesn't work. It looks good on paper. You know, we have a lot more sensors, and we do sensor fusion, and you know, we have all these modalities where we feel like we can rely on stuff. But then you get the problem of complexity, and just the system gets complicated. Now you have bugs. You have to do insane amounts of validation to make sure that you don't have. It's not just the edge cases in the world; it's the edge cases in your code. You now start having problems with, because the system itself gets too complicated. But that said, you know, they made a bet that that having a platform with a lot of sensors on it was going to be able to get them to market sooner, because it was going to lower the software development burden. I don't think that worked out for them. What I expect is for them to get the monitors out of the cars quickly, and you know, before they get to, like, you know, the 100 vehicle stage. I don't think India's that hard, actually. Yeah, it's kind of funny. There's human perception of what's hard, and the robot's perception of what's hard are very different. Driving 5 miles an hour through a crowd, that's the easiest thing ever, because it's super low energy. Cars got plenty of frames to evaluate the thing. The thing that's intimidating to humans in a situation like that is that you can't see everything, right? It's a field of view. But the cars, they see everything all the time, so that's not a challenge for them. Similarly, they have much higher dynamic range in their visualization. So, like, scenes that seem dark and indistinct to a human, they're super clear and sharp to a machine. It's got much higher dynamic range on its cameras. It's much better in low light. So, you know, so we tend to think of night as difficult. I think night driving is probably easier for the machines than day driving. You know, to us, illumination really matters. To the machine, like, flat contrast is actually a big win. It makes processing it easier.
They also had a separate video where James talked about Optimus. Just a few of my notes from that one. James was saying how hardware is going to be the critical limitation for humanoid robots, not software. And the opposite is true for autonomous driving. So James thinks that AI software for robots will arrive before cost-effective, reliable robot hardware. The real challenge in this humanoid race is going to be who can produce a robot body that's durable, efficient, and has human equivalent functionality. As we've been saying, Tesla should be in pole position here because of their ability to scale production and drive down cost. Tesla also has potentially one of the best electromagnetic actuator teams in the world. Pair that with a culture willing to take long-term bets and a team that is laser focused on building highly manufacturable, high-performance robots, and it's not hard to see why Tesla's in such a great position. But the one point I wanted to drive home is how difficult the hands are going to be for any company. And in this case, when we talk about hands, it's everything from the elbow down. Tesla has already made some big changes here as they move the actuators from the actual hand down to the forearm, now using cables, which mimic human tendons. But quality tactile sensors still remains a major challenge, among other things like grip strength. It makes sense then that James would be most impressed by demonstrations of finger dexterity, like using tools or manipulating delicate objects. And he still thinks that true human equivalent capabilities like handling pets or complex household tasks remains years away. But overall, given Tesla's experience and focus on creating reliable, high performance, and cost-effective hardware at scale, Tesla really is in pole position when it comes to this humanoid race. I'll have both of these videos linked below. We're going to get Tesla's Q2 production and delivery numbers this week, and we got the company compiled consensus for Q2. They're expecting total deliveries of 385,086. Now, I will say Troy Teslike is meaningfully below this number, but I'm not going to give away the specifics. I believe he's going to make that number public sometime tomorrow. As a refresher for Q1 of this year, Tesla's deliveries were 336,000 4,681. So most expectations have Tesla coming in with a number Q2 that was higher than Q1. But for quarter 2 of last year, Tesla's deliveries were 443,900. And based on all the data we have, Tesla is going to come in well below that number for Q2 this year. And yes, quarter 2 was still impacted to some degree by reduced inventory from scaling the new Model Y and from variant limitations like how the performance model is still not available. And I've said all along, we need to wait until Q3 data to get a better picture of true demand. There's no such thing as a truly clean quarter, but Q3 should be much cleaner than Q2. The company compiled consensus number for 2025 now sits at 1.64 million. Holmar said wait times for Robotaxi is definitely something I'd like to see improve. Too often you're waiting 15 minutes for one. Ideally should always be under 5 minutes, 10 at most. Eric, a Tesla engineer, said wait times are the result of supply of vehicles versus demand for rides geographically at any given time. We're utilizing the data from the launch to inform fleet orchestration, and these wait times will improve significantly as we integrate these learnings. So it's a simple matter of supply and demand, and given Tesla won't be revoking access to the network after they invite someone, the only way to change that equation is to add more vehicles to the fleet. But there is a third option, and that's in trip planning and determining which vehicles go to which customers, and as Tesla gathers more data, that system will also improve. On this point, Farzad asked Elon when Tesla expects to get to a 3-to-1 or more Robotaxi to supervisor teleoperator ratio. Just so you know, for this, Farzad is treating supervisors, the people in the passenger seat, and teleoperators as the same thing, using them interchangeably. I'm not sure what numbers he's using, but he said per his modeling, it looks like the Robotaxi would be break even at a ratio of 2-to-1, very profitable at 3-to-1, and wildly profitable at 5-to-1 and above. So when is Tesla expecting to hit a ratio of 3-to-1 or above? Elon said as soon as we feel it's safe to do so. Probably within a month or two, we continue to improve the Tesla AI with each mile driven. But here's where this gets tricky. Right now we have one supervisor for each Robotaxi. We'll call that 11 Robotaxis and 11 supervisors in the car. Then let's say there are 11 teleoperators just to be conservative. The people behind the scenes that we can also call support. That means right now, Tesla's Robotaxi to monitor ratio is 1-to-2. Because remember, in this case, Farzad was treating safety monitors in the car and support and the teleoperators as interchangeable. So it's just mathematics to get to a ratio of 3-to-1 for Robotaxis to monitors. Tesla would have to start removing supervisors from the vehicles. That's because even if you only have one teleoperator monitoring however many vehicles Tesla has, if each new Robotaxi has a supervisor in it, that ratio can never get to 3-to-1. And so that's why you can likely take this to mean that Tesla would be removing the safety driver within a month or two. But I will say this comment from Elon gives me more confidence about my guess that Tesla would remove the safety monitors sometime before the end of August. And lastly, it should be obvious by now, but not even Tesla has a set date of when they plan to remove the safety monitor. To some degree, it's going to depend on how the next few weeks of actual data goes. But I think this comment from Elon gives us a very good indication of how he thinks things are going so far. Right now, we have Elon being very public again in opposition to the changes to the big beautiful bill. Jesse Jenkins came out saying the updated bill contains a new tax on wind and solar power projects. Avoiding the tax is very difficult to do according to the letter of the bill as it is, and based on his math, we could see taxes 11% higher for utility scale solar, 8% higher for residential solar, and 18% higher for on and offshore wind projects. That's on top of ending the 30 to 50% tax cut for wind and solar projects. So the bill could raise taxes on the most important new sources of electricity supply in the US by at least 40 to 70%. Now again, let me be clear, you cannot take Jesse's math as gospel, but directionally it's accurate. And I won't share everything that Elon has said, but he's really going off on this topic. Michael Thomas said the bill could wipe out 500 gigawatts of potential energy generation capacity. Elon said this would be incredibly destructive to America. Jesse Pelton shared that math from Jesse Jenkins, saying, "We're not shooting ourselves in the foot, we're shooting ourselves in the chest," to which Elon said, "Yes, utter madness." Jesse Pelton said, "You cannot train AGI without batteries. China knows this." And Elon said batteries are critical to smooth out the power fluctuations from AI training and grid voltage drops, as even a small change in power causes AI training to fail. Elon also said the latest Senate draft bill will destroy millions of jobs in America and cause immense strategic harm to our country. Utterly insane and destructive, it gives handouts to industries of the past while severely damaging industries of the future. And just this morning, senators started a vote-a-rama, which is a series of votes on the proposed amendments to the bill. This vote-a-rama is the last hurdle before a vote on the final passage of the bill in the Senate. Once the official vote takes place in the Senate, if it passes, it will have to go back to the House for members to consider the changes made to the bill. And House Republican leaders say Wednesday is the earliest chance for a mega bill vote. So we're likely to have some movement this week. I'm not going to dive into the weeds until we have all of this finalized. But again, directionally, it's not looking great for sustainable energy fans. And unfortunately, with this updated version of the bill, the EV tax credit would end September 30th this year instead of the end of this year. And the same would go for the used EV tax credit. Peter Diamandis said by 2030, China could have the ability to produce enough solar and storage each year to match the entire electricity generation capacity of the US. To that, Elon said yes, a massive strategic error is being made right now to damage solar and battery that will leave America extremely vulnerable in the future. And not to throw salt in everybody's wounds right now, but here we go again. Elon said if this insane spending bill passes, the America Party will be formed the next day. Our country needs an alternative to the Democrat-Republican uniparty so that the people actually have a voice. All I'm gonna say, guys, is I'm so torn on this because on one hand, I absolutely love the idea of a third party that's America first, that is truly focused on fiscal responsibility. But on the other hand, I do not want Elon's time and energy and emotions spent on politics. And look, there's a chance this is only a Hail Mary threat from Elon to try to have something change at the last hour with this bill. But based on all of the data we have, it seems like Elon is quite serious about this one. So we'll see where all of this goes. And when you really boil all of this down, we're at a time right now where demand for electricity is soaring in the States. And what we have is this bill not only crippling new supply, but it's also changing the rules for certain projects that were already being developed. So for an administration that claims how America is going to lead the AI race, the current policies in this bill fly completely in the face of that sentiment. Elon said every member of Congress who campaigned on reducing government spending and then immediately voted for the biggest debt increase in history should hang their head in shame. And they will lose their primary next year if it's the last thing I do on this earth. And that's as political as I would like to be for now. On a brighter, much brighter note, Tesla out of the blue shared a video saying nearing completion of our first LFP cell manufacturing factory in North America. I think most of you know why LFP production in North America with lithium refined in Texas and cathodes produced in Texas would be such a win for Tesla. We've been saying for months, Tesla being able to decouple slowly from China over time would be a great thing. But the real question is, to what degree is Tesla doing this in-house versus licensing CATL's technology? Because we know Tesla bought some of this equipment from CATL, and that brings the massive question mark that is if these cells will qualify for the 45x production tax credit of $45 per kilowatt hour. We have to wait and see how the provisions in the BBB shake out, but if a meaningful amount of material or know-how comes from CATL, these cells may not qualify. Now, to be clear, even if they don't, this is still going to be a win for Tesla's vertical integration integration and steady supply long term. Jordan from The Limiting Factor had a great post on the topic. He said several images from the video indicate Tesla will be using a wet coating process, especially this one here that appears to show drying ovens. He added CATL does use a wet process, and going that path would just be easier for the time being. Jordan's assumption is that this factory will start off with prismatic cells, not 4680s. That's because Tesla implied these cells will be used for grid storage, and prismatic works better for that use case. Since the equipment's from CATL, CATL produces mostly prismatic. And in this image, he said it appeared to show prismatic cells. Jordan said it's probably going to take 1 to 2 years to hit volume production, and the rumor is the initial production capacity is 10 gigawatt hours. He expects Tesla to massively grow their in-house LFP prismatic cell production and possibly roll in some of their learnings from the dry 4680 production lines in Austin. One other attack vector that this factory will insulate Tesla from is tariffs. On this news, Elon said this is vital to America. As you can see from the video, this factory looks pretty close to done, as Tesla called out they're nearing completion. It's pure speculation on my part, but it seems like we might actually have some cell production starting in the back half of this year. If you tune in regularly, you may remember earlier this year we talked about some patents that Tesla has published for LFP technology, and this boosted LFP was likely going to be the foundation for future US-made Tesla vehicles. So again, in time, as Tesla scales up production, these cells likely won't just be for battery storage, but for lower cost vehicles as well. Now we know that Tesla primarily uses cylindrical battery cells across its vehicle lineup, but over the years they have had a few battery packs that used LFP prismatic cells from CATL for standard range vehicles. So listen, if you're thinking this factory is going to start making LFP cells for these more affordable vehicles this year, I would say you are mistaken, because again, it's going to take time Tesla to scale to any meaningful numbers. So my guess is these cells will be primarily for battery storage for the next 1 to 2 years, and after that, we'll see what Tesla does. But I will say the scuttlebutt, if you will, is that these LFP patents that Tesla has could eventually lead to Tesla having cheaper cost LFP than China. Of course, that's really not verified, it's just the word that's out there. Over the weekend, Tesla updated some of its regional websites across the EU to reflect the upcoming launch of supervised FSD. Drive Tesla Canada is saying Tesla could begin rolling out FSD in Germany, the Netherlands, and Norway before the end of 2025. But I would push back, saying there's at least a chance this is just Tesla doing some more marketing, trying to help customers understand that FSD exists. I'm just saying it doesn't have to mean that launching supervised FSD is imminent. So these website updates are not nothing, but it's also not a guarantee either. Tesla China just started the rollout of the ultra-fast V4 superchargers for the first time. The first batch of V4 superchargers is now officially up and running in China. Yes, these stalls are open to non-Tesla vehicles, and the network layout covers 100% of the provincial capitals and municipalities in mainland China. The 4 cities where these V4 chargers are Shanghai, Zhejiang, Gansu, and Chongqing. The only source I could find that said something about these sites having the V4 cabinets to provide these faster speeds of 500 kilowatts was the CNEV Post. And personally, I find the CNEV Post to be pretty reliable, so it seems like these do indeed have the V4 cabinets as well, not just the newer V4 stalls. How about this? Samsung has unveiled another new battery storage project in Australia, but this time they're going to use Tesla Megapacks instead of its own brand. This would be a 400 megawatt hour project, so it would use roughly 100 megapacks, which is roughly a $100 million deal for Tesla. Samsung did not specifically say why they're going with Tesla Megapacks instead of their own, but frankly, they don't need to. We know Megapacks are proven to be reliable, they're cost efficient, they're scalable, and they have that integrated design and software optimization. Tesla Charging shared this graph saying supercharger utilization is reaching highs while waiters on the network are at lows. Our network expansion is data-driven and customer-centric. I recommend you take a screenshot and save this because every holiday season without fail, there's FUD about how Tesla's superchargers are going to be so busy. And listen, in a few select areas, yes, that's the case. But overall, as you can see from this graphic, less than 1% of Tesla's customers have to actually wait to use a supercharger. And back in 2019, that number was still under 3%. And just so you know, the utilization metric that's in red and steadily increasing over the years is just the number of sessions per stall per day. Back in 2019, that number was around 3, and today it's up around 8. Max from Tesla said only Tesla Charging has data on waiters, key to getting charging infrastructure right. This is how we're keeping the best customer experience while pushing network utilization. Higher utilization leads to the cheapest average energy in the industry, financial sustainability, and reinvestment into more new superchargers. Max also said Tesla has to be careful on not pushing utilization too high and keeping charging dependable. Customers come first, utilization optimization second. As of June of this year, in North America, they averaged 10 sessions per stall per day. In Europe, the number is 7, and APAC, excluding China, is 5.3. Tesla has released its impact report for 2024. You can say what you will about EVs, but this is one stat I will always come back to. Pollution emitted during the burning of fossil fuels leads to 8 million premature deaths globally each year. That accounts for 1 in 5 premature deaths worldwide. It's like all of these EV haters are completely clueless about the air that they're breathing. This was hands down my favorite graphic on the whole deck though. As you can see, here's Tesla's fully integrated ecosystem with the Cybercab and the Robovan and Optimus pushing babies, carrying groceries. And some people were saying this white out vehicle could be the more affordable model. No, I just think the white out images in this graphic are just non-Teslas. So this would be a non-Tesla vehicle charging on its network. I have to say the pictures in this slide deck are top tier. Tesla called out in 2024 there were over 250 new or updated features deployed to owners globally via software updates. Of the recalls reported in 2024, 99% were resolved with OTA updates. Here's a key slide for all of the fire FUD. This is vehicle fires per billion miles driven. Tesla is at 6.5, the US average 55. Vehicle fires are 8 times less likely for Tesla vehicles than the US average. I also think this is an important slide because sometimes we don't know when Tesla talks about autopilot if they're including FSD or not. But they said autopilot tech includes the hardware and software necessary to operate active safety features, autopilot, and supervised FSD. Which means yes, Tesla's accident data might actually be including FSD. Either way, autopilot technology is nearly 10 times safer than a human driver. Tesla received 4.65 million job applications in 2024 alone, and 76% of leadership is promoted internally. By the way, that's over 12,700 job applications every day. In 2024, Tesla sent 5.3 gigawatt hours of battery materials to recycling partners, which is enough for 64,000 plus Model Y rear-wheel drive vehicles. And in-house, Tesla processed 1.7 gigawatt hours of battery materials, which is equivalent to 21,000 Model Y rear-wheel drive vehicles. I'll have the full report linked below. Jim Farley said the Chinese EV industry posed a serious threat to the American automaker. It's the most humbling thing I have ever seen. 70% of all EVs in the world, electric vehicles, are made in China. They have far superior in-vehicle technology. Huawei and Xiaomi are in every car. You get in, you don't have to pair your phone. Automatically, your whole digital life is mirrored in the car. Farley said the reason Ford could not offer something similar was because tech giants like Google Google and Apple decided not to go in the car business. So I don't know if that was a typo or something, because Google via Android Auto and Apple via CarPlay are both heavily involved in the auto business. And another reason Ford couldn't offer something like that is because they don't have the software talent to do so. Farley also said beyond that, their cost, their quality of the vehicles is far superior to what I see in the West. We're in a global competition with China, and it's not just EVs. And if we lose this, we don't have a future Ford. Separately, Jim Farley also said when you have a brand like Ford, when there's a new technology, you have to be really careful. We really believe LiDAR is mission critical. Farley was asked which approach makes more sense to autonomy, Tesla's or Waymo's, to which he said to us, Waymo. He said both companies have made a lot of progress, and Farley has had conversations with Elon, but he stated Ford considered LiDAR to be an important part of the picture, noting that where the camera will be completely blinded, the LiDAR system will see exactly what's in front of you. Ford said it plans to partner with a self-driving software company once the technology is further along. But really, to top off the foolishness, listen to this statement. He said, "We decided as a company that a cooler problem than full autonomy in an urban setting was high speed, eyes off. Push a button and read a book in your car." Translation, that's the only problem we think we have any chance of solving right now. So I think it's safe to cross Ford off the list of companies that may be licensing Tesla's FSD. Tesla AI shared a very technical blog post today about Dojo, but I'm going to save this for later in the week as I want some more time to dive into it. But it will be linked below if you want to go through it on your own. Tesla stock closed the day at $317.66, down 1.84%, while the NDX was up 0.64%. After hours, it's down another 2%. The volume was 33% below the average. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video. If you did, you can find me on X, linked below. And a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.